All right, everybody. Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. It's producer Casey here with Mr. Derek Fask. And here we are yet again, where our New York football teams do not come through the way that we need them to. The Jets doing it in the way they've been doing it for the last 3 weeks, losing in a blowout to the New England Patriots 42-10, and the Giants actually pulling out a pretty decisive victory over the I almost said the Oakland Raiders, but the Las Vegas Raiders, who, as of late have basically benched their entire team in order to tank. So here we are. The Giants look like they're probably not going to have the #1 pick in the draft. And, that doesn't bode well for the Jets. And, yeah, kind of a meaningless win there for you, buddy.
Yeah, pretty damn typical as far as the Giants, in these sort of late season spots, winning when you don't want them to. And for better or worse. I mean, sometimes it's, in the rare occasion, it's worked out. Like I look back at the Giants versus Washington in the 2019 season, where it was the Chase Young ball, but the Giants got Andrew Thomas. But typically, it's not what you want. A couple of years ago, of course, with the whole Tommy DeVito run, which ends up, leaving them out of the Jaden Daniels, Drake Maye sweepstakes. With Malik Neighbors is obviously a very good receiver. Last year, you beat the Colts in the second to last game of the season, which, look, it took you out of getting Cam Ward. That, remains to be seen if that was good or bad. You get Abdul Carter, and then you trade up for Jaxson Dart. But, yeah, here, a lot to still be determined, right? So my mood on this, obviously, I'm not happy about it. The Raiders, like you said, Casey, really, they went all out on the tank. They're not a good team to begin with. And then you see in the beginning of the week that Brock Bowers and Jeremy Chin are basically shut down for the season, which is extremely curious because, they were, were they dealing with injuries? Yeah, like Brock Bowers missed a little bit of time, but they were basically close to full goes in their most previous game, a competitive game at Houston. And then at the end of the week, after Max Crosby early in the week had said, hey, look, I don't give a fuck about the pick. I want to play this and that. They shut him down as well, to the point where he basically leaves the facility. He was pissed. And so that relationship is kind of fractured. So, look, I'm kind of envious of the Raiders in the fact that, hey, look, the NFL kind of needs to there needs to be some sort of lottery system or something, because too much as fans, we're in positions where you want to lose. It's just too advantageous. And so, as much as it's very annoying the Raiders did this, and I'm sure there's a segment of fans that are just like, fuck them. It's like, hey, I kind of wish we would do something like that. But yeah, we end up really just killing the Raiders. And we'll, talk about the game really sort of briefly. I am actually, it would have hurt more if the Giants kind of won a really close game where let's say Dart played like shit, just an ugly game like this. Look, if you're gonna win, let it be decisive and not damn, I can't believe we just won on a last second field goal. But it is pretty incredible. I mean, that the mirroring of the last two seasons, where the Giants were 2-13 going to the second to last week of the season. They win to go to 3-13. They snap a long losing streak. They had lost 9 in a row. They had lost 13 road games in a row. The last one they won was at Seattle last season, where Geno Smith was the quarterback in both instances, which is just weird. Former, Giant quarterback who actually had his one start against the Raiders when they, decided to bench Eli Manning.
And break that record.
Exactly, in 2017. So, look, I guess let's first discuss the game quickly and then kind of go back to what it means draft-wise and where things still sit. Because going into this game, the way things went, if the Giants just lost the game, they would have locked in the #1 spot. It wouldn't have even mattered whether they did against the Cowboys because of all of the outside help that they got elsewhere. If, for example, the Browns beating the Steelers. But I digress, because, of course, that wouldn't happen. And then there's the whole Joe Shane component, which we'll discuss as well. But Jaxson Dart looked good. Again, you can't take that away from him, but the matchup was incredible. It just was. I mean, even with Andrew Thomas being out, Marcus Bowe, the rookie tackle, he started at left tackle. John Michael Schmitz was out at center, so they went with Austin Schlottman, which isn't really much of a downgrade, to be honest. It's probably neutral, would be how I would say it. Theo Johnson was out too. And the point is, the Giants had players out themselves, offense and defense. But this Raider team, again, it's piss poor, and they really have no intentions on winning at all. So you combine, I mean, it's just, a horrible roster to begin with. You take away Brock Bowers, you take away Max Crosby, this is what you're going to get. And really, where the game turned was Geno Smith throws an interception on a drive where the Raiders are moving the ball. Like, they had the ball, I believe it was in the red zone, and frickin' Bobby Okereke, who has not done anything the last couple of seasons. He was good as a Giant in 2023, has done jack shit the last couple of seasons, and he gets an interception of Geno Smith. And to be specific, it was 2nd and 7 at the 12. So who knows? Maybe if the Raiders get a touchdown there, the whole sort of script of the game changes. But to me, that Okereke interception was big. After the Giants kind of were stumbling a little bit, like a couple of punts in their first couple of drives. And Okereke returns it to about midfield. And then from there, pretty easy work by the Giants. Devin Singletary finishes it off with a 1-yard touchdown run. I also want to mention Wan'Dale Robinson on an individual level. Good for him. He gets over the 1,000-yard mark. And really, they were just feeding him all game. 11 catches for 113 yards on 14 targets. He really, in Malik Neighbors' absence, Wan'Dale Robinson has really sort of taken over as that number one receiver. And we'll see what his future holds as a free agent. I don't know that it's a slam dunk at all that he'll be back with the Giants. I think he'll get a pretty reasonable contract. And they'll have to decide as far as money allocation if it makes sense to bring him back. So the Giants take a 7-0 lead. Raiders do respond with a field goal to make it 7-3. But then, the Giants offense puts together a pretty efficient drive. A lot of Tyrone Tracy. Jaxson Dart was kind of back in sort of his running ways, which is, look, you got to watch out for it, of course, as far as the concussions that he's sustained. But really, it is what makes him effective. Jaxson Dart as a pocket passer is nothing overly special. It's what he does outside the pocket, that really helps him out quite a bit. And Jaxson Dart does get a 12-yard touchdown run, his first of 2 touchdown runs in this game. The Raiders punted away, a quick 3.5 for them. Then the Giants end up with a field goal at the end of the first half. Ben Sauls, the lefty, 32-yard field goal. He hasn't been tested much, but he's been perfect in his 2 games. So Ben Sauls is a guy that, look, maybe with his success here, he'll be in the mix for the kicker competition going into next season. Look, obviously, even if he were to do very well next game as well, you really want to bring in some legitimate kickers here, because that's been a problem for the Giants, obviously, the last few seasons and in the Joe Schoen era in general. We come out of the first half, again, really, Raiders are not moving the ball whatsoever. They punted away. There was a Brian Burns sack. So Brian Burns ties, I think it was Jason Pierre-Paul, 16.5 sacks. I think 4th most all-time in Giants single season history. There were some fisticuffs as well earlier on that I should mention. Rico Payton, a depth sort of special teams cornerback, kind of throws a punch, actually, but the officials didn't see it. And then eventually, we'll actually get there with Rico Payton, but he probably deserved to be ejected, but I don't think they saw it in real time. Ben Sauls gets a chip shot field goal, 23-yard field to make it 20-3. And then the Raiders show a little bit of fight. A bunch of 4th down conversions for the Raiders. The Giants are really bad in terms of stopping 4th downs as a defense. And ultimately, on 4th down, it's the kind of a Seahawk connection. Geno Smith to Tyler Lockett, 4-yard touchdown reception against Deonte Banks. Now, Cordell Flott was out. So Deonte Banks, who was a terrible bust first-round corner, was basically, being somewhat picked apart as much as Geno Smith could. But here's the fucking crazy thing, is that Deonte Banks, similar to last season where it was Amir Smith-Marset against the Colts getting a kickoff return touchdown, it feels like the Giants never get return touchdowns, except when you absolutely don't want them to happen. And fucking Deonte Banks, of all people, making probably his most positive contribution to the Giants since his rookie season, gets a 95-yard kickoff return touchdown to basically quell any thoughts of the Raiders coming back. Because look, at that point, it was 20-10, a full quarter to go. The Giants have been known for choking games away, but that pretty much was it right there. The Deonte Banks touchdown seals it up. You can't make it up. 27-10 Giants. And then is where the next drive, the Geno Smith interception, where Dane Bell gets the interception, and Geno Smith gets hurt on a blindside block by Rico Payton, who probably should have even been in there in the first place. So Geno Smith, high ankle sprain, and he, is certainly extremely unlikely to play in Week 18 against the Chiefs. Giants then follow things up with a touchdown. It is Jaxson Dart with a 2-yard scramble on a 4th and 1 on a drive that could have ended a lot sooner. Raiders, just pretty sloppy as far as penalties and whatnot. Makes it 34-10, and that's your final score. Not much else to discuss here. Pretty much a beatdown of the Las Vegas Raiders by the New York Giants. And so now we sit in a situation where, and this involves the Giants and the Jets, the draft. The Giants now have the number 2 pick right now, and the Raiders number 1. The Raiders are home against the Chiefs. Look, a Chiefs team that is really beat up. I mean, they're on their 3rd-string quarterback. But and as much as you want to kind of hope that maybe the Raiders could win that game, and on paper, it's possible. I mean, it's also Travis Kelce's potential last game. Chances are the Chiefs are gonna win that game. Just right, with the Raiders go through all of this stuff to lose to the Giants, only to then beat the Chiefs. You know what? Honestly, the only way, and I guess I don't know. I guess I'm not totally sure. Actually, with the strength of schedule, never mind. Because the Jets and Raiders are probably close enough. Where I was going to say, if the Giants somehow beat the Cowboys, which they could, in the 1:00 slate in Week 18, then maybe the Raiders are more free. But they're just a bad team. I don't even know why I'm getting into this. Raiders suck. They're gonna lose next week, and so. All my point was that the Giants could still get the number 1 pick in a pretty simplistic manner. There are a couple of other factors as far as strength of schedule that are concerned that the Giants would have to lose to the Cowboys, Raiders beat the Chiefs, and a couple of the random games have to go the Giants' way. But the Giants really still need to lose to the Cowboys, because if they beat the Cowboys, just the whole Joe Shane thing, which the more you hear about this man, and it really feels like he's going to fucking be back, which is just absolute malpractice. And I will be fucking livid, even though I know I'm ready for it. And I will still be absolutely pissed if this guy is back as the GM. It's a total joke. I mean, again, you're 3-13. You beat the fucking Raiders. That should mean nothing. I don't know. I'm at a loss for words on it. But if the Giants do beat the Cowboys, they realistically could drop from 2 to 7. If you think about it, the Jets play the Bills. Now, with that, and we can discuss this as well, and I brought this up last week, the way it ended up working out, there's a decent chance that Josh Allen and company may not play in this game, because the Patriots clinched the division, Bills already clinched the playoff spot, and so they're kind of just jockeying for wild card positioning, which I don't know how much they value that. Now, look, the Jets are so bad to the point where Bills' backups could very easily still beat the Jets, but it's something worth noting. But my point here is, look, the Jets could easily lose that game, and probably will. You have the Titans and the Jaguars. Titans will most likely lose that game. Commanders at the Eagles. Commanders most likely lose. Cardinals at the Rams. Cardinals most likely lose. And then the Browns are at the Bengals, most likely lose. So the point is, the Giants, as bad as this feels to go from 1 to 2, going from 2 to 7 fucking kills you, because if you're a Giant and a Jet fan to a lesser degree, what you really want to focus on now is Dante Moore declaring for the NFL draft, because it's looking like Fernando Mendoza to the Raiders is almost signed, sealed, and delivered at this point. But Dante Moore, who is going to be, Oregon is in this college football playoff, that is kind of the next line of focus. Again, I'm not sure, if the Jets are in the business of wanting to draft a quarterback. Maybe they were only interested in Mendoza. Maybe they weren't interested in Mendoza at all. But as a Giant fan, I'm hoping that, that there still is somewhat of a bidding war, not as much as there would have been before the potential number 2 pick. So again, for me, all hope isn't lost. I'm pretty bummed out, but this can still be salvaged. Like last year, the Giants lost to the Eagles, and if they had somehow beat the Eagles after they were to beat the Colts, it could have been made way worse. This even more so. And so Dak Prescott and company really hoping that the Cowboys go with as many starters as they can. Look, of course, there's concern on my part that they could pull the plug where maybe they start Dak Prescott and then Joe Milton comes in at some point. So again, it gets weird in week 18. But that's kind of my overall kind of synopsis and view of the Giants as far as their win versus the Raiders, where it leads them now as far as draft positioning and whatever else.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you just got to hope that for maybe, Dallas just wants to play for pride at this point, and maybe Dak and most of the starters will play, because like you said, obviously this game, if you guys somehow pull out this, that would be catastrophic. Basically, that would completely ruin the season all around. And, like you said, it would give more credence to Joe Shane potentially staying, and it would just be a nightmare. But it's really funny, like that Deonte Banks return, right? Like, to me, it's like symbolic of this whole Giants season, right? You know what I mean? Like this guy who's basically one of the biggest busts. You guys traded up for this guy, right?
Yes.
And here he is doing absolutely nothing. But of course, in a game that means completely nothing, in a game that a lot of Giants fans and Jets fans included were hoping that the Giants could somehow lose this game. Here he is basically sealing the victory for the Giants. Just absolutely wild. So yeah, it's going to certainly be interesting here. I mean, like you mentioned, the Raiders, it could not be more obvious that they're tanking. I mean, obviously, like you mentioned the Max Crosby situation. There was that video on Twitter of him playing fucking basketball in his house, you know what I mean? In protest and stuff like that. So I don't understand how the NFL, like they have to talk to them at some. I mean, it's just so egregiously.
I've never seen it this egregious.
Yeah, it's really like it's so because and they claim that he needed to get surgery, and then here he is playing basketball. So, who knows? Like you said, I guess there is a slim hope that they could somehow beat the Chiefs, but. Knowing the Raiders, we might hear some news in the next couple days that, Tyler Lockett's being hung like all some of these receivers now. Genty, exactly. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that I think that's pretty much like you said. Mendoza to the Raiders is going to happen at this point. As a Jet fan, I guess you look towards Moore in Oregon. If he is going to come out, it's still kind of TBD at the moment whether or not he is. But, as a Jet fan, I don't know if I really want to give up, I guess let's just hope that the chips fall as, you kind of projected here with us losing to Buffalo and us staying at the number 3 spot because, I wouldn't really want to really give up all that much to get Dante Moore. Like, I don't know if I would want to move up to 2. Like, I don't think that's like, I honestly think because I guess hopefully in our situation here, you guys would be picking 2 and you would obviously not take him and you would probably take, I guess, best defensive player or maybe someone on the offensive line. So yeah, that should certainly be interesting there. But
yeah,
go ahead.
I'm curious on like the likes of like an Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
I guess the Cleveland Browns to a lesser degree, like their real desire for, a quarterback, right? Like,
yeah.
Would there be a situation where a trade up is possible where, with those teams in mind, right? There's obviously for the, it's tough, right? Like, is there a world, I guess, where where simply the Giants stay put, take an RQB, and then Dante Moore goes to 3? I guess it's possible, but it always feels like there's always this sort of, overdoing, if you will, or quarterbacks valued so much that like even ones that aren't like deemed as like the greatest prospects, there ends up kind of being a situation where they end up being like the top picks. But we'll see, right? We don't even know if he's gonna be, declaring for the NFL draft. So
yeah, it's good. Yeah, definitely be interesting here. And I mean, like, even like last year, I mean, I know it was, a cornerback, but it was Travis Hunter who was like this anomaly. We didn't know what to expect. And there you go, right? Like the Browns and the Jags make that really, that big surprise trade there. So yeah, there's always going to be, some kind of dark horse candidate probably in the shadows here that might try and swoop in at 2 and try and, win the, swoop the Giants with a bunch of picks and stuff like that. So, and knowing the Jets' luck, that's probably what's going to happen. So,
I mean, look, it definitely this result did not really work out for either team here. Obviously, the Giants speaks for itself, and then the Jets, like you said, like you've been saying this, where like looking ahead, the forest, through the trees, that the Raiders, that basically. The Giants having the number 1 pick was obviously a better situation trade-wise for the Jets than the Raiders being one, where obviously they would just take Mendoza.
Yep,
So
yep, yeah. Yeah, and I mean that's the thing too, man, because I guess I'll just touch briefly on the Jets here. I mean, got, shellacked again, 42-10. I mean, basically over within the first 5 minutes of the game. I mean, the first drive, New England basically went down the field in 6 plays and scored. This is now a full month of blowouts.
yeah,
This time versus the Pats. This is actually, as I found this stat, we're the first team since the 72 Pats, ironically enough, to lose 4 straight by 23 plus points in one season. And now, we were just talking about the situation with Buffalo, but if the Buffalo were to kick the shit out of the Jets, that would be the first time in NFL history that, a team would lose 5 games in a row by, 21 plus points, I think it would be. So it would be absolutely insane. Now, the one small caveat here, like you mentioned, is that the Patriots clinched, and Buffalo basically is going to basically stand pat, I think, where they are in terms of the standings.
Yeah.
I guess some things can change.
There gonna be some movement, I think, between probably 5 and 7, right? Like they're gonna be on the road for sure, and it's kind of a matter of where they
want to go. Yeah. But the thing is, Josh Allen kind of got dinged up at the end of this game against Philly, where he like rolled his ankle, or it was a foot injury that. I know the X-rays were negative, but now this makes it like, even more like, okay, they're probably not going to play Josh Allen. It's definitely going to be the backup. Is it still Trubisky over there? I'm not even sure, but anyway, there, I guess, could be a possibility here that the Jets could kind of squeak this one out now that this really means nothing for the Bills, which is a little worrisome. But bro, seeing the lack of energy, and just the team is just so terrible. I mean, I think I said this earlier in the year during like the 0-7 stretch, but the Jets play their own brand of football. Like it's not like, it's like we watch, like, I watch the NFL with you and my father and my friends, and like we watch good teams like the Eagles and the Bills game, even though that was low scoring, but it's like, okay, like, oh wow, like real football, you know what I mean? Like, wow, like, imaginative offensive playing, and, defenses that are, actually trying to get to the quarterback and stuff like that. And then you have the New York Jets, 0 turnovers again yesterday, I should say, no interceptions. That streak's going to continue. You would think, I guess there's a chance we might get one next week if it's the backup quarterback for the Bills, but still just a complete embarrassment all around there. The only shining light, I guess, from the game yesterday was that Breece Hall crossed the 1,000-yard mark, kind of what you were alluding to earlier about your your player as well, Wan'Dale. So Breece had that big run that helped get that mark for him, which I guess is nice to see, but there's just not much there, man. I mean, the Brady Cook experiment, the UDFA, obviously he was a UDFA for a reason, and getting sacked quite a lot doesn't really, he just looks completely overwhelmed, just like Aaron Glenn does. And I mean, that's the thing, bro. Like, I'll just pivot to this. It's just like this Aaron Glenn thing, how could you feel confident that this guy is going to, really, when you ask the question, like, what does Aaron Glenn do good as a head coach? Nothing. I mean, he's a defensive minded head coach. The defense has 0 turnovers this game, no interceptions on the season. He had this whole thing with Justin Fields believing in him, giving him $30 million guaranteed, saying that, Mike Tomlin and those people didn't know how to coach him right. And here he is, and he's going to fucking fix them. I mean, just so many strikeouts. I mean, I guess the only thing that he did right was the special teams coordinator, because that was been somewhat the only thing that's been, operational and functional on this Jet squad. But I just how do you feel with all this draft capital that we've accrued, and obviously the Colts again losing, which was great for us. We're going to have these two picks in the first round, and now this Colts one is going to be more in the, I think it's 18 right now, and it could go lower, but it's just, to me, it's like, and funny enough, right? We lose to the Patriots today. What did the Patriots do last year, right? They had a coach, funny enough, who was like a legacy player for them, right? Maye, who was on a bunch of those Super Bowl teams, and, someone well respected that kind of was brought in to, turn things around there, and it just clearly didn't work out. And you know what? Robert Kraft, being a savvy owner, I guess saw the writing on the wall with Mike Vrabel coming, and, just said we have to get rid of him, and look what's happened, right? Granted, I guess this year there isn't maybe that coach, at least yet, that we know of, that is going to be out there on the market. But, I mean, if you're Woody Johnson, I mean, I really feel like you got to sit there and go like, we have all of this draft capital, and sit down with Muji and be like, if we're, especially if we're going to try and get more at pick 3, or if we end up trading up, like, is Aaron Glenn really going to be the guy to get us there? I mean, this team just has no juice, and I mean, it's unfortunate because again, there was that little stretch, midway through the season where we won a few games and things look good, and but I don't know, man. I mean, I guess it's look, and granted, it's a lot of it's not mostly the starters on defense anymore. It's a lot of players that are not really that great. I mean, a lot of second string, third string people. So I guess you can give a little leniency maybe to Glenn there about the fact that he doesn't have like his A team squad, but I guess the our version of an A-team squad, who ended up going 0-7, by the way, with Sauce and Quinnen, wasn't all that great either. So I don't know, man. It's crazy. I mean, I really feel like they might have to just pull the plug on this. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah. So you can't have much confidence in Aaron Glenn. And if there ever was a situation, like, I don't think he's going to get fired, but like, if he did, I think it's well within the right to happen. Like, I think if you're a Jets fan, look, like you said, this roster truly is awful. Like, that is a legitimate defense for Aaron Glenn. Like, it's bad, but to be getting just absolutely dominated in this fashion, the way it's been, like, the Jets have gotten killed in many games this year.
Yeah.
And so then you have to sort of question, effort, there's a whole bunch of things that need to be kind of brought into question. And none of those things look good on Aaron Glenn, right? It's one thing to lose, and you sort of play, there's competitive games and you kind of fight. And the Jets did have some fight for a while, but it just seems like they're laying down at this point.
I mean, look, Drake Maye, career high 5 touchdowns, from this game. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, the 2 games ago, looked like fucking John Elway. I mean, these quarterbacks look incrable.
5 touchdowns, and he got taken out in the third quarter. He could have had fucking 8 touchdowns.
Dude, if it was Bill Belichick, it would have been 70-3. You know what I mean? Sure. Like, thank God Mike Vrabel, I guess, is somewhat of a heart and like pulled the starters when he did, because they easily could have been like that Denver Miami game from a few years back,
right?
Like 70 to whatever it was. So
and Aaron Glenn's supposed to be this defensive guru, is what you're led to believe. I have not, and I understand. But look, like when there was Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner and more of a full squad, I mean, they were getting their asses kicked from the jump by Aaron Rodgers. I mean, like, just right away. So, I don't know. It's really, I don't think, here's what I'll say. And who knows about Darren Muji? Look, give Muji credit as far as the trades executed, but as far as talent evaluation, that remains to be seen, right? It's one thing to make the trades. The other thing, what are you going to do with that?
We said the same stuff about Joe Douglas before everything went down, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, he was making a lot of smart decisions and drafted the wrong quarterback and went all downhill. So
right, exactly.
Yeah.
So Muji's one thing, but Aaron Glenn, like, look, things can change quickly. Obviously, like, I'm not a Jet fan, so I'm not as sort of in on it. But like, I don't know, from afar, like, I don't think Aaron Glenn is going to be a successful head coach. And again, like, he'll probably get a year 2, see what he does, but I don't know. He just, the way he's handled certain situations, I just haven't been a fan of Aaron Glenn. And this is someone who felt like, when he was hired, I was like, it makes sense. It makes sense. Like, I didn't think it was a bad hire at the time. I didn't love it. I think the Jets could maybe use, an offensive mind as head coach. It doesn't always work out, but like the Jets so many times they go on the defensive side. Aaron Glenn. I don't know. I'm not really a big fan of Aaron Glenn.
Yeah, because it's like, he's a defensive minded head coach, and he came in here to like restart the culture, right? Like, that was his whole big thing. And it's like, yes, I mean, I guess they bought in temporarily at one point midway through the season, but overall, it's like, it's an embarrassment. It's a joke. I mean, there's nothing there. I mean, these people, and he just doesn't look like he just looks so in over his head. And it's just hard as a Jet fan to not, like, look into the future and be like, of course we're going to be talking about him 4 weeks into the next year and being like, what a fucking joke. I can't believe, and then it's going to be another lost season because we're going to have a coach that's on the hot seat, dead man walking, basically. with potentially this a quarterback that we need to get reps and have a good foundation around him. So I don't know, but again, like I said, like with the Patriots situation, Vrabel was out there, so it kind of like Kraft, obviously hopped on that. I guess this year, no one's gotten fired yet. I guess there could be like a Tomlin situation if the Steelers end up choking this last
like
game
loser
here.
Of that game, right? Like maybe it's
Right,
Tomlin or
Harbaugh
Harbaugh
too.
kicks
Right.
loose.
That would be like, okay, like if you could get, if you could get John Harbaugh in here, I think, no offense, Aaron Glenn, see you later.
Oh,
so
for sure.
That's what, I guess as a Jet fan, that's what you're hoping for. But, it's like I'm conflicted just as other Jet fans are. I mean, I think, I'm leaning more towards getting rid of him. But, I've seen people be like, are we going to do this again and fire someone right away and be back in the same spot? But to me, it's like, what is there about this guy that you feel good about? I mean, he doesn't. It's so I don't know. We shall see, man. I guess we'll this game also coming up here in terms of if we hopefully we lose it, but if we somehow win it, oh gosh. Anyway, but go ahead.
Yeah, no. Like you said, we're going to be sitting here a year from now, less than a year from now, and being like, okay, going through the motions of another probably poor season. It's like, all right, like, you may as well pull the plug and not waste time. I've said this with the Giants, where it's like, the Shane Dable experiment should have been over going into this season.
Right, exactly. You're a prime example of it. Exactly.
You're pushing everything back, and you see what it did. So it's like, if something better is there, and either I don't know. Aaron Glenn's probably the sad thing is it is tough because he probably will be back, and so. But yeah, things are certainly looking bleak. Other than the draft side of things and the draft capital, obviously that's a positive.
That's the positive.
But as far as just the roster itself and everything else, it's it's tough.
It's ugly. Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? Like the Jets, we're the stars of March and April. You know what I mean? Because we always have these high picks and we'll draft these players that all have all this promise and stuff like that. So like you said, it's like, okay, well, we're in a great situation again going into the draft. We're the kings of the offseason. It's just when it's time to play, for some reason we don't know how to do that. So it's going to be interesting. But I guess, like you said, Cleveland, obviously upset the Steelers yesterday, so that boded well for us, just in terms of another team we don't have to really worry about now as much here, just with that one win disparity. So. Yeah, bro, it's certainly bleak, but, we have one more week of this torture, and then we can just watch some quality playoff football. And, speaking of playoff football, we got a couple cool scenarios here in Week 18 for some clinching moments here. We got, the NFC South with that whole shit show. It's back to being the worst division in the NFC. And, again, so yeah, Carolina, they're going on Saturday, I believe, right?
Yes.
They're going to be the first Saturday game.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the Seahawks and the 49ers we're going to be playing, that should be a good game.
Huge,
That'll be the night game.
Yes. That's a great game.
And then obviously Sunday Night Football is going to be Ravens Steelers. I guess Lamar Jackson could be playing here. I mean, I would assume that he's going to do everything in his power to be able to play. Funny that they finally start running Derrick Henry a lot, right? You know what I mean? Like this past game here, it seems like he's been kind of MIA. I mean, I know he was fumbling a lot in the beginning of the year, but it's still Derrick fucking Henry. It just seems like some of those games that they lost, it's like, you realize you got Derrick Henry still, right? But kind of like as we were just talking about, that should be interesting in terms of one of those guys might be fired, one of those coaches. So maybe that will be the way that the Jets pivot. We shall see. But who do you think's going to pull out that Ravens Steelers game?
I think the Ravens.
Yeah.
I know it's in Pittsburgh, but
it is in Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, the whole Lamar Jackson thing's just been strange to me. Like, it seems
Bizarre.
Like there's something weird's going on there where obviously he's not fully healthy, but it just feels like he's at odds. I'm not sure with Harbaugh. It feels like, especially if he doesn't play this week, you would think that Lamar Jackson would do everything in his power to play. I'm not questioning his toughness, but it just feels like, I don't know, even this game was an elimination game. And look, give Tyler Huntley some credit. He did the job. And obviously Derrick Henry was the driving force. But I think that Baltimore wins that game. And it's almost reminiscent to a few years ago. Aaron Rodgers, I believe it ended up being his last game in Green Bay. Green Bay, Sunday Night Football last game of the year, winning in, and they lost to a just recently eliminated Detroit Lions team that was on the rise. I think you may see a similar fate here. No DK Metcalf. I'm not saying Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's a weird team. Pittsburgh could easily win. I think it should be a good game. It'll be ugly, I think, in kind of classic Baltimore form.
Exactly. Yep.
And maybe I'm just going with sort of the momentum, if you will, of this past week, right? Like, and we can be kind of prisoners to the moment. But if you ask me who I think is going to win, I think Baltimore finds a way.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. It seems like the DK Metcalf situation for just the offensive side of the ball for Rodgers. It's like he has really no one to throw to now.
Right.
So, I mean, I know their running backs are pretty solid, Warren and Gainwell, but, you would think that the Ravens are basically just going to probably focus in on that and just put pressure on Rodgers, and he can't really move, and he's got really no one to. I guess Freiermuth is in the equation here, but yeah, it seems like you said, we are, I guess, probably a little prisoner in the moment here, but the Ravens seem like they're just a little bit more in sync, it seems, although even despite all the drama with Lamar,
Right.
But we shall see, man. That should definitely be interesting. And definitely looking forward to watching some playoff football here and kind of rid the taste of, New York Jets. I mean, it has been rough watch, as you could probably tell, but my God, I mean, that game was over within 2 seconds, it seemed like. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson going, ape shit. So yeah, that's it, guys. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, I guess we could start wrapping things up here. Again, guys, appreciate you all for listening and supporting the channel. We're up to about 2,145 subscribers last time I checked. So thank you so much for tuning in. Please keep spreading the love and sharing it to any friends or family that are New York sports fans that, need to, misery loves company. So, we love to, especially for this last week coming up, we'll do a little post-mortem on the season as a whole for both football teams. If you need a little therapy, please come on down. But other than football stuff, we obviously cover the Rangers, who are going to be playing later tonight here against Carolina. So make sure to tune in for that. Derek is always recapping those games. And Yankees baseball will probably be here before we know it, with everything. So, obviously we'll be doing series recaps and, any breaking news this offseason about Bellinger or any other kind of stuff. So, Derek, any last words before we sign off here?
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously 1 more week to go. It's been a rough ride. We've been used to this, so you're almost numb at this point. And yeah, look, still a lot of big ramifications that come next week. And like Casey said, we'll do, a postmortem as well and kind of talk big picture. And then hopefully, I'm hoping, although I don't think it's likely, that we could break some news, on Black Monday or soon thereafter, as far as, a potential Joe Shane firing. I'm just really hoping for it. It would really be a big shift for me as far as just any bit of optimism moving forward. So
your lips to God's ears.
I really hope so, man. Because look, the Rangers season, it's been, a trying one to say the least. And, they're in a spot right now where they really need to start winning some games to really, have a real chance at this. I think that they're at a pivotal point right now where, if they lose a little bit more, I think that, the playoffs are very bleak and just, I don't think that they are a playoff team personally, but some big games coming up, including the Winter Classic in Florida, actually, at the end of the week. So that'll be cool. A little bit of a change of pace. And Yankee off season's been quiet, but, for better or worse, there will be news that is going to come within the next month or two, but we'll see what happens. With Cody Bellinger being that first domino to fall.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank God for the New York Knicks. Like you said, all of our teams are kind of sucking ass right now. So thank God the Knicks are kind of, just representing New York in some capacity here. But anyway, all right, everybody. Appreciate you guys listening. Producer Casey with Derek. We'll see you guys next week.